Matt Finn in Los Angeles with more. Matt.
Harris, the Justice Department says the illegal immigrant from Mexico is 44-year-old Carlitos Ricardo Parias. He's in custody, charged with assault on a federal officer. Agents say Parias was their target in an immigration enforcement yesterday near downtown L.A. Agents say they boxed in the suspect's car, and then he rammed his vehicle into two agents' cars, spun his tires, spewing smoke, and sent rubber flying into the air, hitting agents who also worried the car would dislodge and strike them. The feds say Parias refused to comply. Ultimately, an agent opened fire, hitting Parias in the elbow. A bullet ricocheted and struck a U.S. Marshal. Both are expected to be okay. Now, if you take a look at the front driver tire of the suspect's car in one of the pictures released by the feds, it appears the suspect spun his tire so rapidly the front driver tire shredded into the ground. Activists gathered at the hospital where Parias and the officer were being treated, and even after this dangerous encounter, one activist seemed to encourage armed people to resist ICE.
They are not the only ones with guns in this city. They're not the only ones, and don't forget that. And I don't say that because we're calling for violence. I'm saying that because the people have every right to defend themselves against masked, unidentified gunmen with AR-15s and other military rifles.
Parias is a well-known TikToker, a big following, who trails agents and documents immigration enforcement here in L.A. Earlier this year, the suspect was recognized by L.A. City Council for his videos. And Harris, DHS was quick to point out that these dangerous attempts to evade arrest come after sanctuary politicians held webinars and provided resources on how to resist ICE. Harris.
All right, Matt, thank you. I have something else to add to this, and this is new. Congressman Robert Garcia, Democrat out of California, at a news conference has announced that there is a plan to launch a master ICE tracker on their website. So this would be a state, like a congressional website, if you will, with a master ICE tracker on the website. The name again, Congressman Robert Garcia, a Democrat out of California. So mix in that with all the threats against ICE agents and anybody around them, whether it's local law enforcement. You heard Tom Homan say it on this program last week. Anybody who's near them is in danger when people come after those federal agents, especially if they have to defend themselves. Can you even imagine the position this puts them in for doing their jobs? And now you're going to track them. In addition to doxing them and their families. This is a lot. Well, all of the violence in Los Angeles is just the latest in a string of attacks on federal immigration enforcement. Earlier this month, rioters in Chicago threw bottles and rocks and smoke bombs at agents. Those riots began after two illegal aliens rammed their car into agents' vehicles. So this is a thing. And remember, they're calling it deadly force if you ram your car into somebody and potentially kill them. Last month, a sniper killed two ICE detainees and shot another after opening fire at that Dallas facility with the goal, apparent goal, of killing agents. A round at the scene had the phrase anti-ICE written right on that bullet casing. Over the summer, a rioter appeared to fire a gun during a chaotic raid on a cannabis farm in California. Agents were forced to use smoke bombs when the crowd got more and more violent. And sadly, that's far from an exhaustive list. But instead of urging de-escalation, many on the left are continuing their dangerous rhetoric. Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin of the great state of Oklahoma, member of the Armed Services Committee. Look, Senator, I don't know if you just heard, but when you add in on a congressional website, I would assume this Robert Garcia knows how this looks, a tracker on ICE agents. Right. I mean, that's like a hit list.
Yeah, and Harris, Garcia doesn't have the ability to track these ICE agents, but what he's saying is reckless rhetoric, which is continuously coming from the left. I mean, they're calling for violence. They're not even hiding it. And all they do is they make the case for President Trump to send the National Guard in. Remember, National Guard has the ability to protect the assets of the federal government. They're not on the streets arresting people, but they can protect the federal assets. Humans are federal assets. These ICE agents are federal assets to the United States. They are hunting federal fugitives, which are illegals. They're not state fugitives, they're federal fugitives. They had the right to go out there and arrest. At the same time, the property, the vehicles, the property, and the personnel, National Guard has the right to protect, and they're following right into why President Trump is deploying National Guard. And it's absurd what they're trying to do here.
Yeah. You know what? I do want to put a fine point on it. So Congressman Robert Garcia is lying when he says he can track people who work with ICE. Well, I
That's
guess
absolutely true.
That's when a lie is a blessing. But what you're saying is he's willing to put that false information out there and make people afraid or potentially incite them to do something dangerous to someone else. I mean, it's disgusting.
It is. Now, what he could do is he could put ICE facilities on his website, which isn't overly known. A lot of times they don't have they don't have DHS or ICE facility on the outside of it. There's a lot of FBI headquarters, Secret Service.
So is it okay if he does that?
The city. No, it's absolutely not. It becomes a national security, and we would have to do. I would suggest, I'm in the Senate, but I would suggest the House to hold him accountable if he were to ever do anything like that, and especially if harm were to come to any infrastructure or personnel that works in the facility that he would expose.
Wow. All right, we'll move to this. A chaotic and potentially dangerous scene right here in New York City when protesters decided to clash with ICE agents during an operation targeting the sale of counterfeit goods and other crimes. Democrats quickly tore into ICE at a hasty planned pop-up news conference.
This wasn't about public safety. This was about targeting communities. And so we want people to be clear, as much as we can continue to say, none of this is about public safety. It is about fear and chaos.
There is no excuse for sending military-style vehicles and a national law enforcement response for street vendors.
New York City mayoral candidates also had something to say about it. Democrat, socialist, and communist Zoran Mamdani blamed the Trump administration's authoritarian theatrics. Those are his words. Independent Andrew Cuomo called it an abuse of federal power and more about fear than justice. Those are his words. Republican Curtis Sliwa's campaign said organized counterfeit rings are hurting law-abiding merchants. Wow. What an interesting debate the next one will be. Now, back to you, Senator. What do you say about this? I mean, there's a long list of the crimes, the people that they were going after. It's not hard to trace why ICE showed up.
Well, Harris, either we're a nation of laws or we're not. Selling counterfeit merchandise is illegal. Not to mention, it's stealing revenue from the company itself, plus tax revenue from the municipality to which it's being sold. Once again, the federal agencies were doing their job. By the way, Secret Service actually has a role in going after counterfeit merchandise, too, not much less that the individual themselves is illegal. They are federal fugitives. And if we're not going to enforce a nation of laws, then we become a lawless nation. And I don't think anybody wants that. This is why the Democrats' popularity with the American people is at the lowest it's ever been, because they can't rationalize their position. They're more interested in protecting criminals than they are protecting law-abiding citizens in their own community.
Look, I'm looking at the people who are gathered around in this video and in many others that we see. You know, they're willing to get physical with these agents. And you
Right.
want to know why it looks like they sat down with so many people. Tom Homan has told me, and from DHS, their representatives have told me that they have to have larger numbers now because of the physicality that's pressed upon them. Your last quick word.
Which, once again, this makes the point why President Trump needs to deploy these National Guard members. Even though I hate it for disrupting the National Guard members themselves, there is a federal role, and we have seen this through the civil rights movement, all the way with JFK, LBJ. We've seen it repeat in history before, where National Guard has been used to protect federal agents and federal property in time of disturbance. This is why there probably has to be a larger deployment of National Guard to protect federal agents from doing their job, or to be able to let them do their job.
Senator Mullin, thank you for being in focus.
Thank you, Harris.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.